some of the easiest preparation we have to do for a podcast. You know what I mean?
It is. I think this is the first time we've ever actually had like a homework almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aside from the various times we were like, oh, we got to pick 3 of this particular thing or 3 of that particular thing, but yeah, no, this is the first time we actually had a homework.
I mean, in retrospect, we have homework a lot when you think about it.
Yeah,
we actually do that a lot.
Life is homework.
Well, I wouldn't use the word homework. No. Maybe more like a pain in the ass, but if you want to say, well, I guess homework is a pain in the ass if you think about it. So fair enough, you get a free pass on this one.
Hey. Hi everybody, welcome to the Smark Avengers. My name is Corey, and with me is Dylan and John. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So, I believe if my timing is right, and I'm pretty sure it is, Christmas was 2 days ago. So, Merry Christmas, fellas.
Happy Christmas. What did you guys get for Christmas?
Probably comic books, I imagine.
Wow, which comic books did you get?
Oh, I don't know, whatever's on my Amazon wish list.
But Christmas was 2 days ago, so you've already received those gifts and you know exactly what they are.
Yes, but I've also eaten and drank way too much, and I've lost the memory of it. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll accept that explanation. That's fair enough.
Today's a little bit different than the standard Smark Avengers format and style. We always pride ourselves on the idea that we are not we're not a of the time kind of show, and we still kind of aren't in this case. But because it is the holidays, we thought it would be interesting to do a review of a holiday-related book. So, simply put, this last week we took the time to read a comic, and we're all going to come together and talk about it as kind of in a standard book review kind of way. So, for the holidays, we read Volume 1 of Grant Morrison and Dan Mora's Klaus from Boom Studios. This trade came out in November of 2015, with the comics coming out around that same period of time. So, Klaus, set in a dark, fantastic past of myth and magic, Klaus tells the story of how Santa Claus really came to be. Where did he begin? What was he like when he was young? And what happens when he faces his greatest challenge? Drawing on Santa Claus's wilder roots in Viking lore and Siberian shamanism, taking in the creepier side of Christmas, and characters like the sinister Krampus, Klaus is Santa Claus Year 1. So, prior to reading this book, did you guys have any experience with Klaus?
No.
Same. I remember seeing the comic on the wall, and I remember talking to Gib, who is the manager of the comic book store that I go to, and him saying that it was a really interesting book, and I just never picked it up. However, the book is written by Grant Morrison, who we are all familiar with. I know for a fact that Dylan and I are very big fans of Grant's work. I don't know how John feels about it. So, John, what is your experience with Grant Morrison?
Pretty much just the new X-Men run over in Marvel, where he sort of reinvented the wheel a little bit with that run, which I know Dylan's a big fan of.
Yes.
But for me, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. It was just, I don't know, some aspects of it I felt like were a bit too world changing, or flying in the face of what came before it. And but then at the same time, I sort of admired the fact that he was doing something a bit different as well. So yeah, like I said, it was a bit of a mixed bag, my sort of relationship with Grant Morrison.
So, Dylan, your experience with Grant Morrison, is it just with New X-Men, or is there other stuff from Grant that you've enjoyed?
It's mainly the New X-Men stuff I really liked. There was something else, but I don't remember what it was, and that's probably a bad sign. It wasn't it was one of his not Marvel or DC things. I don't remember what it was. And I read his book. You and I have talked about his book.
Yeah, the book Super Gods, which is
yes, very good.
Superheroes as modern day mythology and philosophy.
Yes.
So my experience with Grant is a bit more varied. I don't think I finished the new X-Men run, but what I have read from Grant is I have read their Doom Patrol run. I have read their very lengthy run on Batman. I've read the one of the few really good New 52 books where Grant took over Action Comics and told a back to basics return to 1930s style Superman, where Superman is like fighting injustice and greed and stuff, and not like giant robots. I have read Happy, which was a mini series they did. They later adapted into a TV show about a hardened, disgraced cop meeting a kid's imaginary friend that he has to help find a missing child with. I've read a lot of different Grant stuff is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
So Grant is, as John kind of was alluding to, Grant is a bit of a controversial figure sometimes in comics because Grant is a big proponent and idea of it's comics, anything can happen. And sometimes that means flying in the face of established continuity at times. So John...
Sometimes it means killing Magneto.
Yes, I was about to say, John, is that the big one for you?
Yeah, that was the one I really didn't like very much. But then it pretty much got immediately undone by, I think it was the next writer coming in rather than Grant himself, like, doing that. But yeah, that whole thing with Magneto just felt like, whoa, hang on, what are we doing here? This is a bit of a change of pace. But
that's really funny because that's one of the things I really liked about it was that it was such a. I mean, like the whole run. If you read the whole run, he leads up to it. It doesn't just happen. Magneto just doesn't get bonked on the head. There's a perfectly logical reason for why that happened. And what annoyed me was the fucking half-assed way they brought him back immediately after they killed him, where they just kind of went, nope, wasn't him, and you're like, what? That like they'd done such a good job of like explaining why Magneto deserved to die, and then we're just like, oh no, he's good, don't worry about it. And I that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, the way they did that,
Mm-hmm.
That's just personal preference, I guess.
Yeah. Were there any other controversial changes that you recall from that, aside from the killing Magneto? Grant... No, go ahead.
It's been a long while since I've read through that entire run. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I did like. How introducing Quentin Quire, he was like an interesting character. The whole Phantom X and the world was like really interesting. New part of like the X-Men mythology, and yeah, it wasn't all like terrible, like I say, but yeah,
I just mostly terrible.
No, I just remember reading it and not being totally blown away by it. That's all.
Well, I remember like Grant introduced changed the form of Beast.
Mm-hmm.
So that Beast, who was very accustomed to being like the blue ape-like version of himself, now is having to adapt to a new evolution to his powers that made things a little more complicated for him. He was the one who gave Emma Frost the diamond body, right?
Yes.
Yep. So Emma Frost got the diamond body because Grant couldn't use Colossus because Colossus had died. So Grant was like, all right, fuck it. And that's kind of the thing I'm talking about. Like, up to that point, Emma Frost was just psychic and lingerie. Like, she was manipulative and conniving, but to introduce like a whole new just power set that was the exact opposite of like everything else she'd been, that is like prime Grant Morrison. Like, that's how you could tell it's a Grant book. Because Grant just said, fuck it, make her a diamond.
What's really funny with that, though, is like you said, he couldn't use Colossus because Colossus was dead. And then right after the Grant Morrison run, Joss Whedon came in and brought back Colossus. So you're like, all right, so Colossus was on the table then. But also, imagine if that was Colossus in the Emma Frost role. Like, well, does Colossus have to fuck Cyclops then?
I was about to say.
What's gonna happen now?
There's
that would explain why Jean Grey might get a little bit miffed about the whole deal.
Be surprised at the very least.
Yeah, like really. I mean, I get it. He's a big, burly guy, I guess, but he's got a metal penis, I suppose. But I suppose I don't know for a fact, right?
No, they've never established that in that.
None of us really know. We can only just guess, speculate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, one of the other things is that there is a very loud community of Jean Grey fans who are not a fan of Grant Morrison, because Grant introduced the psychic affair that separated Cyclops and Jean Grey and positioned Cyclops to be Emma Frost.
Again, I really liked that. I thought it was.
I did too.
Fucking fun.
Like that as well.
It gave Cyclops like actual personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like really fucking interesting. It was a really good way to shake things up in a fucking comic book way, a logical way, I really liked the whole thing.
In a lot of ways, I thought like the relationship between Cyclops and Emma Frost was just way more interesting than Cyclops and Jean Grey anyway. Like he had someone a bit more combative to kind of like bounce off, whereas like Jean, it was more of a lovey-dovey relationship where there wasn't that much conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
So all of that being said, and we focus more on the new X-Men run because that was the stuff that you guys read. So we didn't talk about like changing Negative Man's story in Doom Patrol or how Grant introduced themselves as a character in Animal Man, and Animal Man met the writer who had been like putting him through hell. So Grant does shit like this. That being said, we have Grant Morrison over basically the origins of Santa Claus. So I don't know if Santa Claus is the same way for you folk in the UK as Santa Claus is here. I mean, Santa Claus is kind of the be-all, end-all of capitalism marketing for the holiday season, like Coca-Cola.
I mean, that's a pretty negative way to put a spin on it there, Corey, but I suppose you're correct.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the reason I do that is in this book, Grant could have very easily focused on stuff like that about how mass consumerism and stuff has taken the Santa Claus legend and iconography, something that's meant to be like good for kids of like, oh, if you behave yourself, you'll be rewarded, like simple moral message. And then they turn it into like, buy stuff here.
Yeah, you have to get your kids 6 PlayStations.
Yeah. So yeah, that being said, Grant gets a lot of leeway with the origins of Santa Claus. Now, we'll go on to the art real quick first. Are you guys familiar with Dan Mora?
I was not familiar with him.
No, I wasn't familiar, but it was really good.
Yeah.
Dan Mora is the artist for the World's Finest comic. So in World's Finest is the DC Comics Batman Superman team up book. That he's doing that with Mark Waid, and he's like a perfect fit for that book. And I think he was a perfect fit for this book too.
Yeah, I think so. He got a lot of like really good expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's just parts where you're like, you really get exactly what kind of feeling the characters are going through.
Mm-hmm.
At certain key moments, and like especially the guy. What's the name of the bad guy?
The Baron.
Yeah, let's call him Baron for now. Yeah, someday like you look at some of the shots of him, and like it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
You understand everything about that guy.
Yeah. So Dan's ability to make facial features and stuff is sort of their deal. It's one of their strong points. They also just do like traditional big muscle kind of characters. Very good for superhero books. The only other artist that I know of that does like the facial expressions is as well is Kevin McGuire, who did the art for Justice League International. And even then, like Justice League International was more of a comedy book, so the facial features were part of that sort of comedy, like people having really over the top like reactions to like something dumb happening, essentially.
Did something dumb happen a lot?
Oh yeah, JLI was sort of Giffen and DeMatteis basically made a. Are you familiar with the show MASH? From like the
Yes.
70s?
Love that show.
Yeah, Justice League International was superhero MASH because it was yeah. So post Crisis, they were all about like we got to establish the heroes, like we got to make sure that they are clearly and cleanly established. So they're like, Superman's going to be in his book, he's not available for anyone else. Batman's in his book, not available for anyone else. Wonder Woman's in her book, not available for anyone else. And they were doing that, and then they're like, we got to make a Justice League book. Who are we going to fucking put in the Justice League? Because all the heavy hitters are in their own books, and we're not touching them because they have to be established. So JLI was like Martian Manhunter. They did get Batman because I think the editors felt bad for him. Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Fire and Ice, Green Lantern, but it's Guy Gardner, and like they just went with it of like, all right, these are all characters that are like C and D level almost. So let's just like make a comedy book. Like one of the very famous JLI incidents is Guy Gardner running his mouth over and over and over again, and then Batman just gets fed up and punches him square in the face and knocks him out in one punch. So yeah, JLI was.
That's just what Batman does in his regular books, though.
Oh yeah, but here it was Guy Gardner had been talking about how powerful he is. He was the most powerful person on the team because he has a Green Lantern ring, constantly challenging people to fights and threatening them, and then Batman takes him out in one punch without saying anything.
Exactly. He doesn't have a Batarang, though, does he? I don't think so.
No.
Doesn't have the Bat car. Whatever that was called.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone call the Batmobile the Bat car. That's surprising.
That's what it is.
That's true. It is the Bat car.
The car shaped like a bat. It's actually not shaped
That's
like a bat
true.
at all. It's fucking not shaped like a bat. Anyway,
yeah.
What are we talking about? Oh,
So
the
we're talking
artwork.
about Klaus.
Yeah. We were talking about the artwork, weren't we?
Yeah, we're talking about Dan Mora's artwork.
Yes, I really liked it. He's very good at drawing dogs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Some scary looking dogs as well.
Yes, but like it would get really scary, and then the dogs would get like really docile, And those are like it's hard enough drawing like the emotions of humans to be able to like get the nuances of dogs was I thought pretty impressive.
Yeah, man.
I like this guy. I'm gonna have to check some more of his artwork out.
Yeah.
Oh, like I said, Dan's great.
Does he ever do art for Spider-Man?
They might. Let me see what I can find on Dan Mora's current art projects that they're doing. I hate to say it, I'll probably have to go to Comic Vine.
I'm going to guess no. That's my guess. John, what do you guess?
I'm going to guess no as well.
Oh, you could have threw a curveball in there and have like a competition going, see who's going to win.
But
jeez. All right, so here's the work that Dan Mora has done. World's Finest, which is what I was talking about earlier. A book called Once and Future by Boom. Dan has done a lot of Power Ranger books.
Ooh.
A lot of Power Ranger books. He had a run on Batgirl, Shazam, Nightwing. He did Secret Empire issue number 0. It looks like most of his work is
Spider-Man
in the world of DC Comics. He did do X-Men Gold for 5 issues. Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I did
Spirits
actually read
of Vengeance.
Yeah, but did you read those 5 issues though?
I must have done.
What 5 issues were they?
I think there was a couple of volumes of X-Men Gold.
Corey, what can you see which episodes issues he wrote?
Of X-Men Gold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
John's like looking through his library.
Boy, they're all over the place. Issue 11, issue 14, 15, 21, and 22. He clearly was being used as a fill-in artist for if the regular artist wasn't meeting deadline.
Yeah, I would imagine John would have read those episodes. Issues. What's wrong with me today?
So here's the other book I want to tell you guys about. There was a period of time where Boom had the rights to do another comic book. And that comic book was the WWE comic book.
Oh.
So Dan Mora did the WWE comic book for 25 issues.
Wait a minute.
Wow.
Are we gonna get like an actual like Smark reference in our comic book?
Yeah, without having to stretch for once.
For real, like we just kind of stumbled upon this, but it's like an actual.
Yeah, because I remember reading some of those issues. I just sent you a link to the page for the WWE comic.
Okay.
It was focused on the Shield storyline. I remember there was an issue that had like a wacky racers vibe to it because I think it was Dean Ambrose and Sasha Banks having to escape the Wyatt family, and they were all in like weird swamp monster trucks.
Did he do the art for all these?
Yeah,
the art's amazing.
He's great.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wait. So we could probably read this.
Yeah, you could read
as well. Maybe we should do a review of this next week.
Yeah, you're gonna read 25 issues
in a week? Fuck yeah, dude.
All right, there you go.
Did anybody read the AW comic?
No,
I didn't know if it actually put out a comic. I thought they were just advertisements.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, they were just ads. So because I read DC, they were included in the back of some of these recent issues, and to kind of give you an idea. By the way, the art is not great. They did not put their A team on this one. DC gets constantly pulled into shit like that too. Like I remember they had a Ruby comic that they were like putting out, and they had like a crossover, and they just did the crossover of Godzilla versus King Kong versus the Justice League. So anyway, the AEW comic would be like, here's a big picture, like a big drawing of like Will Ospreay, and then here's going to be 3-page mini story that's supposed to tell you about Will Ospreay's past, but it's like ridiculously kayfabe, and it has nothing to do with like the actual person. Because I think like they did one for Swerve Strickland where he was like a military sniper before he became a wrestler, and I feel like that didn't happen.
Is that playing off the fact that he was
the kill shot?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. Anyway, they just felt like a waste of time. Anyway, though, going back to Klaus, which is our assignment. Klaus is 7 issues long, and like I said, it is a brand new take on the Santa Claus mythos. Because before this, there was the 1950s stop motion Santa Claus movie. You guys ever watch that?
1950s?
1950s? Yeah. Was it 50s?
No.
Or 60s?
No. I've seen a stop motion Santa Claus film, but I don't think it was from the 50s.
There was Santa Claus the movie from
the 80s.
The 80s, yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, because it has John Lithgow and Dudley Moore.
Yeah, indeed.
It was considered one of the biggest box office losses of all time.
Wait, animated film?
No,
that's
was
live action.
No, I'm thinking of an animated film, like a stop motion.
So this is Santa Claus is Coming to Town from 1970.
Maybe, hang on.
Film's narrated by Fred Astaire, voices by Mickey Rooney and Paul Frees.
That might be it. Hang on. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. Yep. I knew it wasn't the 50s.
I just remembered it was old.
Oh, don't go try to fool me with a 50s.
So anyway, yes, that was the previous attempt at a Santa Claus origin that I can speak on. But yeah, are you guys familiar with Santa Claus lore and mythology? Because there's the whole St. Nicholas and all of the other old traditions.
I mean, ish. Like there's all that stuff. Like you were saying, a lot of the traditional Santa Claus stuff, like him in the red outfit and stuff, was kind of like Coca-Cola based. It was all like, a lot of the image that we get is based on them making those adverts.
Mm-hmm.
It was Coca-Cola, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. But like really Santa Claus is a much older legend, if you will, because nobody really knows if he's real or not. So we'll say he's a legend for now. Fuck, I was gonna say something. I forgot what it was because I was too busy talking shit. He's based on. Is he based on Krampus, or was Krampus
Krampus
like
is
an
its own
alternate
thing.
version?
Yeah.
Like the German version of the Santa Claus mythos. Because Santa Claus, it was Saint Nicholas.
Yeah, Saint Nicholas.
Yeah, I don't know when Santa Claus became the name. Clearly, we know a lot about this fucking thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
we
it
were
was
reading the
something
book,
to do
not
with
the history of Santa Claus.
It was something to do with like the Netherlands, I think. Like that's certainly where Krampus came from. Is like
Oh, I thought that was German.
So Saint Nicholas is 4th century Greek bishop of Myra in the Legion of Lycia in the Roman Empire, which is now in today's Turkey, known for his generous gifts to the poor. So there you go. It's based off of an old bishop from way back when in not Catholicism, but just Christianity.
We were pretty close with the Netherlands and Germany.
Father
Christmas you were right
came
about
from
it being Germany as well, Krampus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Father Christmas came from 16th century England. There is some Dutch, Belgian, and Swiss folklore, Germanic paganism, Wodan, and Christianization. So yeah.
Santa Claus is American, right? Father Christmas was British, but Santa Claus was American.
Yes. Santa Claus took the name from the Dutch, which came from Sinterklaas in Dutch, a phonetic deviation. So he got the marketing and the red suit and everything because of American advertisements.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's our slapdash brief rundown on Santa Claus, real quick.
I think we nailed it.
Absolutely killed it. So, all of that being said, we're reading the book. You can definitely tell Grant's focus on the mysticism and the shamanism. Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, for those who are also not aware, Grant Morrison is a magician, a wizard. Grant practices, witchcraft, casting spells, and going on journeys into other dimensions, usually via means of psychedelics.
Drugs.
Yes. In Super Gods, there's actually almost a whole chapter dedicated to Grant discovering the 5th dimension.
There is a point about him getting fucked up on drugs, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's in Timbuktu while he's doing it too.
I mean, he's a classy person.
Yeah, he went on a vision quest. Mm-hmm. So yes, knowing that and knowing the paganism of Eastern Europe, Grant definitely takes a lot of influence of that in this story. Usually you see the Klaus character enjoying a stew, and you can see mushrooms in it, and then shortly after consuming it, these sort of brightly colored spirits of the forest come to him and start speaking to him.
Yes.
So, basically the story it's very simple. This is not a complicated story in any means. It takes some interesting twists and turns, but yes, it's not terribly difficult. This is a 7-issue miniseries, and it was very hit and run. So Klaus is a man who lives out in the wilderness, hunting animals, gathering pelts and bones and whatnot, and he brings them into this walled-off city called, I believe, Grimwald.
Grimsvig, I think it is.
Okay. And once there, he realizes that this is a very totalitarian state where the able-bodied men are forced to work in the mines, and the children are not allowed to have toys because any toy is confiscated and given to the Baron's son. So the city is ruled by the Baron, his wife, and their child, sort of holding down the fort until the king returns. Do they mention where exactly the king was during all this?
Well, I don't think the king. I don't think the king actually lived there. He lives elsewhere. But this was like the Baron's little sort of fiefdom. But then when all the stories came out about how he was subjugating his people, that's why the king is marching on his way over there on your time eve, or your time day, or whatever it is, where he's planning to show up and confront him about like how he's treating his people badly and all that kind of thing.
We find out that Klaus used to come to this city at some point, and it has since changed, obviously, and they do not welcome him as an outsider. He gets brutally attacked and assaulted and then sent out into the forest for death, and is saved only by his domesticated large white wolf.
Lily.
Yes.
It's a shame that part of the Father Christmas legend is not brought up more. That he is a big fucking wolf.
Yeah.
Because I would be so much more in love. And for the record, I love Christmas. I fucking love Christmas. But I would be so much more in love with the idea of Christmas if part of the lore was that Santa Claus just had a fucking wolf.
Instead of reindeer.
Yeah, no, he had the reindeer, sure, but also like in the sleigh, just hanging out with him, is a wolf. Do you know what I mean? Like whenever we go somewhere, like our dog wants to come too, so she has to get in the back of the car, and she just likes hanging out. She likes vibing with us, And I'm like, well, if Santa Claus was just going off on a trip around the world, he would bring his wolf with him, and the wolf would sit in the back seat, and he'd give a little pet on the head, and then you could leave out dog treats because you always leave out a carrot for Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
You could leave out of them dog treats for the wolf or whatever it is. Wolf treats, I suppose. Steak. What do wolves eat?
Well, he ate bones in this.
Yeah. Well, any dog loves eating bones. Yeah. So you could do that. I think that'd be a lovely part of the mythos. A big vicious fucking wolf. But
there you go.
It's you guys know me and my wacky ideas.
So all of this was started because Klaus interjected after watching a guard strike a child in the face.
Yes.
So he goes back to his camp, and as he's healing from the wounds that he took from getting basically beaten by the guards, goes on a little trip and asks for direction from the spirit of the woods to what can he do to help these people. And he wakes up the next morning to have found that in his drug-induced haze, he has created a bunch of toys.
Which is what I used to do all the time when I was fucked up.
I just
and
say
the toys are magical.
The like spirits look really weird. Like they're drawn to look like, I don't know, they've got alien heads or something.
You know what they remind me of? Dylan, did you ever read 8 Billion Genies?
No, I read the other God Hates Astronauts.
Okay, so like they look kind of like the genies from 8 Billion Genies, where the people are drawn to look very realistic, and their genie was just this sort of like blue, round-shaped little guy that would like float around by them.
Okay,
so it's just kind of a contrast.
I do like how it was like these crazy woodland spirits. They didn't look at all real. I'm like, well, I don't know what you wanted them to look like.
I didn't say they didn't look real. I said they look like weird-headed aliens. That's all.
Which is exactly what woodland spirits look like.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, you guys both live in a city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand the pure joy of getting fucked up for drugs and then running through the forest.
No.
You just have no idea. It's fun. Wouldn't do it all the time. But I do it at least once, and you'll see something that looks like that. Let me tell you, it'll change your life.
So yes, after discovering he has carved a bunch of magical wooden toys, he sneaks back into the city and begins to leave them as gifts for the children. So this is also important to remember that this is a young man Santa. This is not the traditional fat old white man with a white beard. This is Santa Claus as a barbarian, Santa Claus as an action hero.
Because prime.
Jacked as shit.
Oh yeah, he's ripped, dude. But it's a comic book.
Yeah, of course.
Gotta be fucking ripped, dude. I want to really quickly, because we're going kind of through this in a chronological order.
Yes.
Really quickly, they kind of show the Baron's kid.
Yeah,
Yes,
what a
being
brat.
Being a
Yes.
brat.
Mhm.
And then, you're talking about Santa Claus. You've already established that all the toys in the city have to go back to the kid. That's part of the oppressive nature. That the kid, no other kids get toys, and all the men go down to the mines. And pretty early on, you see the kid just being really bratty. And I think we should mention that now, right at the top, because they talk about that later on, and we'll kind of talk about his development later on. But I remember that sticking out to me immediately. It's like, boy, I fucking hate that kid.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Because he does him. But what I liked about and we'll talk about it more in detail, is that he is a little brat and he's really annoying, but he is also just a kid.
Yes.
Like a kid who is kind of in a spoiled, privileged situation that he doesn't understand. And I think all of that kind of comes together really well as well. Like that's good writing.
I think like his mum as well is sort of really disaffected and not very involved in his upbringing, which is probably why he's a bit bratty and obnoxious.
Yes, because we see that later on too.
Yeah.
Once she starts to get more involved with him, he starts to get more of a more human-like persona.
Yes.
Yeah. So while we're mentioning these characters, the Baron is a good representation of foil work, because Santa is drawn to be very big, very broad, very charismatic. He's drawn handsome, like even though like it is a very cold place, he's got a tan, And the Baron is he looks kind of like Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings. He's pale to the point of almost being gray. He's super small and very thin and just looks kind of greasy in general.
Yeah.
He's basically wearing the Emperor's cloak as well all the time.
Yeah.
He's always got his hood up.
Yeah.
Yep. So yes, Klaus sneaks back into the city and drops off toys for the children. The children are all ecstatic until the Baron and their guards notice that the children are playing and having fun. So the guards confiscate all the toys and bring them to his son Jonas to play with.
Part of the thing as well is when you see the toys that the kids are playing with, the toys almost seem as if they're alive.
Yes.
The way that the kids who have been starved of playtime and imagination, the way that they're playing with the toys, it seems to make it seem as if the toys are alive. And then when the toys are brought to the Baron or his kid, he can't get that same kind of magic to come out of the toys.
Yes.
And another important thing is that the mother begins to finally show life because she recognizes she recognizes a toy bird that looks a lot like one she had been hiding secretly away from her husband.
Yes.
So it's there's that
foreshadowing.
Indeed.
Foreshadowing. So Klaus sneaks back in, drops off more toys. Children begin to write wishes to him. So there's the origin of the writing letters to Santa. The people, like the guards in the city, also begin to think of him as a ghost because they can't stop him. They don't see him. When they do see him, he gets away, seemingly vanishing out of thin air. So then, like, rumors that there's this spirit going out at night, doing this is an issue.
I really like that because he was basically Batman, just skulking around on the rooftops and like swinging in and dropping off some toys and then disappearing again.
Just like Batman.
He's very Batman-esque. Yeah. So yeah, it was just like that, Batman-esque. So this is, I think we're like issue 3, I think we're kind of like at when we're kind of summarizing right now. At this point, then the Baron goes to like this massive library. He pulls out this grimoire and he opens up the book to a page and a voice starts speaking to him. Basically wanting to be freed, essentially. And that's our first hint at a larger evil than just this corrupt political figure.
Right, because that would just be a really boring issue if he was just fighting against, bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Like, office workers, fuck you,
Mm-hmm.
You need a little bit more excitement. It's a comic book after all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, if those two guys had a fight, big birdie Santa Claus guy and then tiny weedy guy, I wonder who's gonna win, Need a little bit of
especially
excitement.
because, later on, the Baron does like draw a sword on Klaus, and he can barely carry it. He can barely lift it off the ground.
Yeah, later, like there's a point where he's just dragging this giant sword around, like just dragging it. But it's hard lifting up a big sword. Have you guys ever lifted up a big sword?
Can't say that I have.
No.
You guys haven't lifted up a big sword? You guys are missing out living in the city. You don't have any fucking fun. Yeah, you can go to McDonald's whenever you want, but you don't get the fun of lifting up a big sword and getting fucked up on drugs and running through the woods. You guys are missing out, man. Hanging out with wolves. You know what I mean? You guys need to just go and live in the country for a little bit and experience life. I feel like I'm Santa Claus and you guys are
we're the Baron.
Baron.
Jonas. So the next issue after this is a flashback issue that takes us to basically how Klaus came to be. It also explains why Dagmar, the Baron's wife, has a bird that looks identical to one of the ones that he had just made. So he was discovered in the forest as an infant in the frozen arms of a woman who had died, but yet he was alive and totally fine. He was adopted by a man named a guard named Carl, who named him Klaus, and he became best friends with Dagmar when he was a small boy and actually had made the wooden toy bird for her. So that's why he was familiar with the city, because he'd grown up there.
Yep.
Also, you see a young Baron whose name is Magnus, who is jealous of Klaus's friendship with Dagmar. And as time passes by, Magnus poisons the current Baron, or the Baron at the time there, and blames Klaus for it. So Klaus is left outside of the city to die, where he meets his wolf Lily. And we cut back to the presents when Klaus enters Dagmar's window and confronts her. And yeah, he gives her a toy that he made just for Jonas. And that
I thought was really sweet, because up to this point you've seen this kid being a brat and like being really annoying, and then Santa Claus is like, here's a toy specifically for your kid, because that's part of the problem. You're just giving him stuff that he doesn't understand. I thought that was a really important part of it too, because you'll touch on it in just a moment. But I thought that was a really important part.
Worth noting as well, this is about the time when all the like men working in the mine are starting to get more and more sort of revolutionary, I guess. Like,
yes,
they're showing a bit more defiance.
They're starting to rebel against having to sit and work in the mines all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So is this where we start to see the miners going crazy? Because there's some of the miners that start hearing a voice.
Yes,
they do talk about that. They just like ignore the voice, keep
working.
Mining keep working, which is a normal thing to say in a job.
So we also get the Baron, who has discovered the children who write letters to Klaus, and he basically forces Jonas to write a letter to Klaus to basically set a trap for him.
Well, right before that bit, you see the most humanizing part, which is where the kid can't understand why he can't get the toys to work. He's getting really frustrated, because you see him all the way through up to this point being very frustrated and very like angry about stuff. Because he doesn't seem to understand anything. And this is the first part where you see him and his mother like interacting properly. You don't see them interacting up to this point properly. And now she comes in, she gives him the toy that's specifically for him, and she like talks him through like how to play with it, because he doesn't understand at first. And then she kind of explains it like, well, you could do this and we could have a little adventure, which is a very thinly veiled explanation of her own life,
Mm-hmm.
where she's like the little bird trying to escape or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's such a lovely little moment where you can see the kid like softening and understanding more about life. And I think that's really a really good scene because, you know, you can understand what that kid goes through. Because if this was anybody else writing it, well, maybe not anybody else, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of other people, they would just been like, the kid is a brat and that's it. Like you don't have to do any hard work with that, but they really weaved through the lines here, and we're like, no, the kid's a brat because that's just the way he was brought up, because he was raised by the father, not by the mother. And now that you see the mother interacting with him, he's learning a lot more and becoming more of a person, more of a human. And then immediately after that, the dad comes in and was like, no, stop fucking around, do what I want you to do, which is hurt this man that I don't like. And you can that happens so quickly, you know.
Well, and you see
huge
Jonas
juxtaposition between
to
the two parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Jonas is kind of resistant to it for like the first time. Like he can tell something's wrong, and you can like, and that's again another example of Dan Mora's art where it's sold totally in the art.
Yes, you can see it on the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not into it.
So, additionally, in addition to that, to kind of what you were saying, like she's essentially teaching Jonas how to have an imagination, because he was just assuming the toys were going to do their stuff on its own, and she kind of had to instill that level of magic into him, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. Because he's just a guy that lives by himself. He doesn't have any friends or whatever. He doesn't understand any of that stuff. Yeah.
Jonas ends up telling his mother about what happened with the Baron and the letter. She is starting to get more and more like kind of brave and defiant in the face of her husband. And but the letter, of course, makes it to Klaus. He goes to, you know, to he falls into the trap and ends up getting poisoned by an arrow, and that kind of leaves him for dead. And that's like kind of the moment where you start to see his impact on the people, because a child, just a random child. I don't think they really they name the child later on, but like this is the same kid that got hit in the face that kind of was the inciting incident for all of this. Ends up like taking care of Klaus and getting him and Lily to Klaus's cabin so that he can you know, mix his herbs and fungi into a cure for himself from the poison.
And so he can get high again.
So the Baron ends up tracking him there, and they set fire to his cabin and they leave him for dead on the surface of a frozen lake. And we finally get to see what the miners have been digging for, because the king is coming to basically, it sounds like, punish the Baron, to or at least to verify these incidences of what's happened to this stronghold in his kingdom. The Baron rounds up all the kids and leaves them in a place, and right then and there, as the miners are getting again more revolutionary, some of them working to the point of exhaustion or insanity, they end up cracking through the final wall, and a huge demon escapes and wants to eat the kids. And that's when we realize that the demon is the Krampus.
Yep. Loves eating kids.
Especially fat kids.
Naughty children, that's what he was saying.
Well, he just loves eating kids, really.
Yeah.
He loves the fat ones, he loves the naughty ones, but he'll eat any kid.
We kind of like learned that he has an interesting justification of what makes a naughty child.
Yeah, the naughty child is whatever child is in front of him. Like anybody, any kid, that's it. That's I'm eating.
Yep.
It's like me with pizza.
So the forest spirits again find Klaus, and they imbue him with new strength, and ends up gets some more powers and frees himself and begins to return to the stronghold, Grimsvig. So yes, at this point, the king has arrived and confronts Magnus, the Baron, and he is very defiant in the face, because in his mind, he has won. The demon is out. He is going to become the king, which is that deal he struck with this demon a long, long, long time ago. Basically found this grimoire and the spell that this demon was trapped underground in the mines. And ever since he assumed power, that's what he's been doing. He's been forcing these people to dig this demon up. So the demon arrives and tries to eat all the kids. And that leads to Magnus realizing that his deal with this demon was empty, and that all he has done is basically just release this monstrosity on the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Klaus comes back, and we start our big our big violent over the top superhero fight that comics are made for, essentially, right?
Hell yeah.
Certain things to remember, though, is we see a couple of face turns, essentially. Jonas ends up sacrificing himself to the demon for all the other kids, basically saying that he's the naughty kid. He's the one who's been selfish and greedy. And, of course, the demon's like, hell yeah, and picks him up and throws him in a sack.
Right.
Hell yeah. And the Baron, realizing what he has done, also attempts to do the right thing after he stabs Klaus through the chest with a fucking sword as well, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that he really does not attempt to do the right thing. I'm gonna say that right now.
At the very end.
There's a bit where you're like, oh, maybe because the demon's like, I'm not gonna give you what you wanted. You freed me, so fuck you. So you would think, okay, now he's gonna turn face, and then he stabs Klaus in the back with a sword, and then says to the demon, see that? I killed that guy for you, so now you definitely owe me. I'm like,
yeah,
he's doubling down on the heel turn here. He's not like turning face.
He's basically saying, give me what I deserve.
Yes.
So that's what the Krampus does by like
burns
spitting a big shower of fire all over him.
Which is exactly what he deserved. And then after that, he says, oh, help my son, while he's dying because the fucking guy burned him to death. And I'm like, I don't think that's I mean, that's an AEW face turn if ever I saw one. You know what I mean? The guy like literally been set on fire. I'm like, look after my son. What the fuck? I mean, they were gonna do that anyway.
Yeah.
They didn't need him to say that out loud, right? I would not call that a the other face turns, yes. That one
not so much.
No,
that's fair. So we get a chase scene at this point where Klaus, or the Krampus, summons this dark chariot that's pulled by hellhounds, and then Klaus ends up doing the same, but with like wolves, right?
Well, no, I think it was.
He jumps onto the thing.
Oh, right? He jumped onto it. I thought for some reason the wolf was flying. I think I'm just spoiling it at the end because that's like a thing.
It was originally Klaus's like sleigh. But then Krampus like infects it with his like evil and turns it into his like evil sleigh.
Mm-hmm.
Evil sleigh
with evil wolves.
Yeah, demon wolves. Which again, I would love if that was part of the mythology, but you can't get everything.
Yeah, you can't get everything you want.
Mm-hmm.
So the demon claims that all bad children are going to belong to him. Klaus then doubles down and says, kind of the proof of the Jonas redemption, that there are no bad children. And
there's some bad children. There's probably some bad children.
He ends up beheading the demon with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it tries to spit fire all over him as well, but because they're so high up in the atmosphere, it's too cold for his fire to sort of ignite, which allows Klaus to behead him.
Crazy old Klaus.
Whilst laughing maniacally, ho 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 ho.
As you would too.
So yeah, he saves the day. He's got Jonas with him. Jonas is safe. Dagmar is incredibly, thankful. Dagmar promises the king, who's witnessed all of this insanity, that she will take over for the Baron, and Klaus will be her advisor. and promises to undo all of the evil things that her husband has done while being in charge. So there's a couple of flash forwards that you see through the book where you see people gradually age, but Klaus does not. He's at this point immortal. So you see Dagmar gradually get older and pass away, and you see Jonas grow into a man. And the very end of the book, Klaus gets on a sled and flies off into space by the looks of it.
Yep. Just like real Santa Claus.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's the book. I will tell you that there were a series of one-shots that Grant put out every year up until 2019. I wonder what happened in 2020. Anyway, so yeah, that is the story of Klaus, the new origin of this character. What were your thoughts on reading it?
I really liked it.
Yeah, same.
I really liked it. I loved the art. I loved the writing. I mean, we've already talked about how I'm a big Grant Morrison fan anyway, but I like I said, the characterization of stuff, the way that it played out, it was all really, really well done. It was an interesting way to make a spin on Father Christmas. I don't think a lot of other people would have done what Grant Morrison did, but it was really interesting. I thought it was just a lot of fun. It was just fun, man. Like, remember when comics used to be fun, and they weren't just like fucking 82-part epics where like all of the guys get together and fight whatever, go back in time and all this fucking bullshit. I mean, it was just fun. I had a really good time reading it.
I liked how it was really superhero-esque as well. Like the certain elements of like superhero comic books like pulled into the story and made it feel like like a completely different thing to what you might expect from a Santa Claus origin story.
Yeah,
but then it didn't feel that like out there or too crazy either. Like it was still sort of grounded in sort of myth that you could kind of not believe in, but like
understand.
Yeah,
I thought so. Like they did a really good job of like tying all that stuff together to make it make sense. I thought it was really good.
Hell yeah.
But what did Corey think?
No, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. This is Grant Morrison is kind of one of those people who understands comic books at kind of the return to form and the surface level. I remember part of the Super Gods book, Grant talking about how children are like the best readers because they accept things. Because it's like, like why does yeah, exactly. Like, how does Superman fly? And you'll have some like writers who will try to explain like, oh, it's he's able to tap into gravity or whatever. And Grant's like, because he's Superman and that's Superman flies.
Exactly.
Just does.
Exactly. Like people would try to like they try to figure out the science of all this shit first. And you're like, well, none of this shit makes any sense. That's the whole point. Like, just go with it. You don't have to explain it. You just have to like make it make sense within its little world.
Yes.
Which he always does. Like this obviously none of this makes any sense if we're being logical about it. But in this world and in the mythos of Santa Claus and what we know about Santa Claus and Krampus and all that stuff, it totally makes sense. Right? Why wouldn't this be his origin story?
Why wouldn't he, play some jazz flute and get high on some magic mushrooms or whatever?
Right. He's just a man. We've all done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I understand where he's coming from. You don't need a whole lot of other, because they talk about very briefly. They're like, "Oh, didn't you die?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, I guess I'm immortal now." And you're like, "Great, fair enough."
Yeah, Santa Claus is immortal.
It's not a great explanation for why Santa Claus keeps coming back, but also that's not the point of the book. Point of the book isn't to talk about why Santa Claus never dies. That's not the point of Santa Claus. I thought this book did a really good job of pointing out all of the good parts of the mythos that you're supposed to pay attention to. And like we said, that's kind of what Grant Morrison does, is like cuts through a lot of the bullshit to get to like the comic booky part, which is what people should really be giving a shit about. You know what I mean?
That's ultimately what matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Is there any other remarks you want to make about it? I mean, good story, simple, doesn't have to be complicated. Art's fantastic.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Good characterization.
Good characterization.
Wolves. You know, like
Wolves, they're wolves.
They hit a lot of like. There's not enough wolves in comics these days.
This is true.
This is true.
Wolves aren't as cool as they are, or as they were back when they were endangered.
That's not true. Wolves are still cool. They're just big, angry dogs, and who doesn't like a big dog? Who doesn't like a big dog? Everyone likes a big dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, in the comment section, talk about how much you love big dogs. We need comments because like YouTube loves it when people comment in your videos. You know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say. Just write yes or no.
There you go. Do you guys like comics? Yes or no?
Yeah. Do you like chocolate? Yes or no?
There you go.
You guys alive? Yes or no?
So that is our opinions on the book Klaus. If you would like to read it, by all means, head to your local comic store, go to Amazon, go to your local library. Honest to God, if you haven't realized it, I don't know if the libraries are like this over in the UK, but in America, tons and tons and tons of trades. You can just pick up, read, bring them back. You don't have to spend the $20, $30 on a trade paperback because half the time you read them once and they sit on the shelf forever.
Do you know how much it costs to get like a library card?
They're free.
Nothing. It costs nothing to get a library card. Get a library card and go to your library and just see what they got there.
There is also a free online library. Let me see if I can remember what it is called.
There's that. Are we? Is that a good?
Well,
are we allowed to do that?
I mean, open library is the thing that exists. It's not illegal. The Digital Public Library of America also is totally free. E-content also free. So these are all like things that you can just pull up and use. That's the beauty of knowledge and information. It is meant to be shared and enjoyed by everybody. So look into that stuff, not just for Klaus, but any other reading that you want to do. It's a quick way to also get caught up on, personal goals for the year. If your goal was to read, 497 books in a year. That being said, John, how many movies have you watched so far for the year?
I am currently up to 771.
771.
Yeah.
So this is where we're going to break reality, because I believe this is the last week of the 2024 year per recording, or per the release. Now, as of right now, it is November 24th, real time. So there's going to be a couple of shows where we're still asking like how many are for the year, and it's going to be like, well, you're in like almost February, so what are you guys doing? So that's why.
Yeah.
I don't like you breaking the fourth wall like this, Corey. I don't like this.
It's cool when Deadpool does it.
Well, he's not real, and we are real. At least 2/3 of us are. So we need to stick to the rules that we've established. We can't go telling people all our secrets.
Dylan, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes. Not about me, but I'm going to talk about, you talk about going to the library, reading books. I want to talk about a book that I've read. I just finished it today. It's the best book I've read all year. One of the best books I've ever read. It's so good. If you like reading, I would highly advise you to check this out. This goes for you two guys as well. If you like reading, I assume you do.
Mm-hmm.
It is by a man called Bruno Schultz. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. The book is called The Street of Crocodiles. I got it coupled. He made 2 books. The book I have is the 2 books together: The Street of Crocodiles and Sanatorium Under the Sign of the Hourglass. In one book. It's wonderful. It's so well written. It's like a painting but with words. Like the way he writes stuff is incredible. Like as soon as you start reading it, you're like, I've not. It's like a tapestry. It's unbelievable. It's so beautiful. It's a bunch of short stories that he wrote that he made up about his family growing up. I think he grew up in Poland. The beginning of the century, the beginning of the 1900s, I should say, not this century. There's been a lot of centuries. But it's a really, really good book. I would highly advise anybody, if you're into reading and if you like just the joy of reading words written down by somebody, I would check this out. Bruno Schultz, Street of Crocodiles. Read that book. Also read my book.
Yeah, there you go. Read.
It's not as good, but it is technically a book. It's available on Amazon. You should read that. The Wonderful World of Captain Explodey. It's on Amazon. So it's good. Yes.
Yep. It's there.
It is there. There. I'm gonna put that as a quote of the next one.
It's there.
Here. Here it is. Rory Flanagan.
Yep.
Beautiful stuff.
Fucking dox me there with my last name.
You can bleep that out. You can cut that out.
No, that's too much work.
Right.
It's okay.
Cut all of this out then.
No,
Cut the whole episode.
Hold the whole episode. So everybody, there's my show, Large Old Cup. It's a little inconsistent at the moment just because life and stuff's in the way, but we do what we do. So we will see you all next year. I think it's gonna be the year 2025, which means
not a real year.
No, it's not a real year.
No, come on, no. There's too many numbers. They don't go up that high. 2025.
They don't go that high.
No, talking about it. It's still 2015.
Boy, last good year. So
I don't know, man. 2019 was pretty good.
Was it?
I don't know. It's still 2015, so I'm guessing.
Oh, that's true. You're just guessing ahead of time. So anyway, we will catch you all next time. We are very closely approaching on 1 year of the Smark Avengers, because I believe that was March, right?
I don't know. Sure.
It's
Take
March
your
or
word for it.
So we will see you all next time. But until then, goodbye.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh my God, Santa is here. What's your wolf like?
He's eating the reindeer.
Oh no.
What are we gonna do? Probably nothing.
Nah, just get more reindeer.
Yeah, that's fair. Just go in the reindeer shop. A couple more reindeer. You know what I mean?
Anyway. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was good.